Well, hello everybody. So after my last video with a squirrel tail showing you how to make it flare out, I've had people ask on here how would I tie it with a full chenille body or a full body. So today I'm going to show you how I will do that so that the body remains proportionate to everything, and how to get the squirrel tail to flare out on the back side of the hook. So with that, we're just going to use some pink 210 chenille, 210 denier chenille. I'm going to use a little pink squirrel tail. It's dyed pink. And I'm going to use what I would call some monkey milk looking chenille for this jig. And that's how we're going to put it together. So we'll start just like I normally do, since this is going to be a full body jig. This jig is a 1/16 ounce ball head jig. Put a little Sally Hansen's hard as nails on there, and then I'll just go ahead and wrap this thread back to about the point of the hook is where I'm going to go to. And then I'll just go ahead and cut the tag end off of that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up a thread dam here. And that's just piling the thread up on there, just like I did in the previous video. You'll see that it'll make a little ball of thread. If you get where, see that, it just fell off there. You probably heard that. You can hear it snapping and falling off of there. So what I'll do is I'll just take a little bit of super glue, and I'll put a little drop of super glue on top of that thread dam, just like that. And you should be able to see that. Let me put my hand up here. You can kind of see how that's forming. And the super glue, because it dries fast, will help me make a good solid thread dam right there. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this back to the front just till I get my squirrel tail. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get a pretty good little clump of this squirrel tail, and I'll usually grab it a clump about like that, and then what I'll do is I'll give it a twist so I can get it off of there, and then I'll cut it right at the base of the tail itself. Okay, so there we have it. We got a clump of squirrel tail. Now inside that squirrel tail there's some dander, so I'm going to I just take my finger and flick it like that and get that out of there. Now what I'll do is I'll kind of measure about where I want to tie this in, and I'm going to probably cut off just a little bit more off the end of this. Because what I like to do is I like for this squirrel tail to go all the way to the head of the hook, and that way the body of the jig stays uniform. If I just tied it in back here like this and wrapped that in, you'd end up with a clump back here. And then when you're done with your jig is going to be bigger than the back end will be bigger than the front end. So we'll just go ahead and tie this in. I'm going to tie this back, and you see how that's laying flat right there, right up until I get to that thread dam. And now you can see that squirrel tail starting to open up when you get there. So now we've got a nice body to that squirrel tail. Okay. All right. So once we get that tied in, I'm going to take this chenille and I'm going to pull some of this off, because there's a piece of string inside of this chenille. And this particular chenille, it's pretty tough. So sometimes you've got to actually cut the fibers like I'm doing here, because again, I don't want to get the jig clumpy in the back. So what I'll do here is, you can see there's a little piece of string right there. So I'm going to just attach this piece of string to that jig, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap that forward just like that. So then what I'll do is I'll tip it upside down, and I'll take some Sally Hansen's again, because I glue everything, and I'm going to give that thread and that squirrel tail a real good coat of that Sally Hansen's before I start wrapping this in. So now what I'm going to do is wrap it in, wrap it forward. Okay, now right here I am like one wrap from being done with this jig. You can see right there. So what I'll do is I like to tie this jig off. I'm pulling this chenille pretty tight. You can see that it's moving the jig. And right here I'm just winding up my bobbin. So what I'll do is I'll come around behind this chenille and make a wrap. And I'll make 2 wraps. And what that does, and a couple in front, what that does is that takes all the pressure off the back of that, so it won't unwrap, and it's not constantly trying to pull back from the head. So once I get that done, I'll put another wrap in there, and then I'll tie that off from behind. A couple wraps in front. Clipped off the excess, and now I'm ready to wrap that off. Take my whip finish tool, put a good wrap in there. The thread ends up getting buried in the chenille. So now you can see we've got just a real nice little squirrel tail jig here. So what I'm going to do now is I'll take some head cement, and this stuff is all waterproof and everything. And I'll take this and I just dip that bodkin in there. You can use a toothpick. Pull that chenille back just a little bit and coat that thread real good. You're always going to be able to see your thread better on the underside just because of how you wrap it. So I always put a good drop of that head cement on there. And there you have it. You've just got the most perfect little squirrel tail jig. The tail has a nice body to it. It's flared out nice. It's not laying on the shank of the hook. Everything's even. And that's all you have to do. And of course, when crappie look at these, they're looking at them from underneath just like this. And that's the profile that they're going to see because they feed up. So I hope you find that useful. Please like and subscribe the video, and if you have any questions or you want to see any other kinds of ties, I'll be glad to do them. But that right there is a very simple, very beginner squirrel tail jig that you'll be able to use anywhere. Thanks so much for watching, and again, like and subscribe, and I hope this is a benefit to you, but that little jig right there will just work wonders. So thanks so much for watching.